And a very good morning, afternoon, depending on which time zone you happen to be in. Welcome to the show. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. Also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Spreaker. We're on most of them, so we're very easy to find that way. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. It's Friday. It's the end of the week, getting ready to get into the big weekend. We survived this week, a lot going on. A lot more will be going on as the weekend progresses. Of course, we're going to be talking a lot of baseball once again today. As usual, it is the baseball season. And of course, we got 3 games on tap today we're going to talk about, bring an idea as to what the line movement is on it, as well as trying to see which direction it's going, to see if we can figure out which direction the pros are going as well. We're going to be looking at the White Sox and the Yankees, Milwaukee against the Reds, and the Astros against the Rangers. Those are the 3 games that we're going to be talking about later in the day. We're also going to take some time and talk about line movement, because I've been getting quite a few emails lately say, you're always talking about line movement and things of that nature. Can you tell us a little more about it? What is it? Because they want to do it. As a listener, you're listening to me talking about line movement. You want to start doing it on your own as well, and I can fully understand that, and I totally appreciate it, in fact. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that, how that works, how that's all set up, things of that nature. So again, that's the story for today, mostly baseball talk. We're going to be talking about line movement as far as that's concerned. And of course, as usual, anything else that happens to pop up in the meantime. So anyway, let's just take a minute and take a look and see what happened yesterday as far as sports betting is concerned. If you're new to the show, usually that's the way we start out the show. This way, if you're keeping statistical data on baseball, basketball, and hockey, you're going to have an idea as to how the underdogs have been doing, how they've done so far for the season. The 2 seasons have already come to an end. We've been keeping a record of those. You've been talking about them every day. And of course, everything that happened as far as betting is concerned. I know by now, more than likely, you know the outcome of most of these games. But of course, even though somebody or some team may win, doesn't necessarily mean that you won if you happen to bet in that direction. So we're talking about the effect of betting on these sports as well. So to start off with, let's take a look at the National Hockey League. Once again, the underdogs woke up a little bit once again. The playoff underdogs went 2-1 yesterday, with the Pittsburgh New York Islanders game closing as a pick'em in most places. And of course, they were upset by Florida. That was a plus 120 on the money line at Tampa Bay. And Montreal, a plus 175 against Toronto. Now, Vegas, that was a minus 115 against Minnesota. They were the only chalk that won yesterday. 3 games, 2-1, 2 underdogs, 1 chalk. But the favorites still lead so far in the tournament, 10-6. You had 2 picks as well. The road teams are 4-0, and now they take a 10-8 lead. The overs are 3-1, but the unders still lead as far as that's concerned, 10-8. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the Wizards routed the Pacers 142-115 in play tournament game, so to earn the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. And of course, now they're going to face the number 1 seed, the 76ers. The Wizards easily covered. They were 3.5-point home favorites. They went over the total of 240, and the favorites were 5-0 straight up. But like we said, against the spread, 3-2. That's what I say. You may know that 5 teams won yesterday, and you know who they were. But the question, as far as betting is concerned, which is what we're most interested in, it was 3-2 against the spread. So that's the in-play tournament. It's still going on. going to be finishing up shortly. The unders went down to 3-2, and that's basically the early situation with the NBA. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the favorites, they went 7-3, with the Marlins Phillies game closing as a pick 'em at both situations. Now, when we say pick 'em, we're talking about as far as the Vegas numbers are concerned, because you may be in New York or you may be in Pennsylvania or Colorado or Mississippi or Denver, anywhere, and maybe in Indiana, and you say, hey, I looked at that game and I saw where the Marlins were a 1-point favorite of the Phillies, but when we say it's a pick 'em, it's from our perspective in Las Vegas. The upsets were by the Giants. They were a plus 130 against the Cincinnati Reds. The Pirates, a big plus 185 against the Braves. And the Red Sox, a plus 110 against the Jays. The favorites still lead 344 to 280 straight up, but just 55.1%. That's percentage total. Okay, the overs went 7-4. That cut the unders lead down to 50.2%. So that's the story as far as sports yesterday went, and the scores, over unders, favorites, underdogs, kind of brought all that to your attention. So that's kind of done with. So we're going to take our first break. And like you say, if you're new to the show, we take 3 breaks within the show, and each one is of about a 1-minute duration. So when we do come back, we're going to take a look at the 3 games on tap for today. Once again, just to repeat them, we have the White Sox against the Yankees, Milwaukee against the Reds, and, of course, the Astros against the Rangers. So we're going to talk about that. We'll give you an idea as to the line movement in those games, as well as which direction the pros are going as well. So let's get that first break out of the way, and we'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're here every day, Monday through Friday. We're at 12 noon Eastern time. Now, tomorrow, which is Saturday, and on Sunday, we come on an hour earlier. We're on at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Saturdays and Sundays. Primary reason for that is because once the NFL season starts, we want to get in and earlier to give you an idea as to which direction the line movement is going, what are the teams and where the pros are going. And this way, after the show, you can then tune into your favorite pregame show, whether it's on Fox or on CBS, and kind of see what they have to say about what's going on. So we don't want to conflict with them at their time frame, which would be 12 Eastern time once the NFL season gets started. So that's the story there. And today, of course, it's Fade the Public Friday. That's what we talk about on Friday. It's called that because, Friday is the day that a lot of people do get paid, right? A lot of people still get paid on Friday, whether it's once a week or twice every other week, bi-weekly or whatever it is. It always seems to come on a Friday for you. So generally what happens, that means that the general public
because ones that do like to bet, they're sitting back and they all week long they've been waiting. They finally got some cash, some jingle in their pocket. So this is the time when they usually start coming in. So you'll find that Friday usually gets a larger handle than the other days of the week. Now, of course, that does change drastically once we get into the NFL situation, because we have Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football, which are very popular and, of course, take in a big load of cash as well. So let's take a look at these three games on tap for today. Take a look at their line movement and try to determine which direction the pros are going as far as that's going. So at 7 o'clock, you have the Chicago White Sox against the New York Yankees. Very similar as far as records go. The White Sox are 26 and 16. The Yankees are 25 and 19. Now, this is a high profile game. You got two of the top six teams in the American League, and they're going head to head. The White Sox right now, they own the best record in the American League. But their new manager, Tony La Russa, even though they're starting to have a little controversy over there, we'll see what effect that may have on the team as the season goes on. Chicago is 7-3 over their last 10 games, and they just took 2 of 3 at Minnesota. Meanwhile, looking at the Yankees, they've come back from a really slow start so far this season, and now they only trail the Red Sox by 1.5 games for the first place spot in the American League East. Now, New York is 14-5 over their last 19 games. And in tonight's game, the White Sox pitch lefty Carlos Rodon. He's 5-1 this season with a tremendous 1.47 ERA. And the Yankees come back with their southpaw Jordan Montgomery, who was also 2-1 with a 4.75 ERA. Now, looking at the line in this game, it opened as really a pick'em as it started out. Both sides roughly at the minus 105 on the money line. The public is all over the Yankees at home. Yet, for some reason, the line has remained frozen, staying pretty much close to the same, despite a lot of money coming in that direction of the Yankees. So what does this usually mean? Simply, it's a sharp reverse line movement on the road dog, Chicago, as 9, and because Chicago is 9-2 against lefties this season so far, while New York is just 5-6. The White Sox are plus 73 in run differential this season, which happens to be the best in Major League Baseball. The Yankees are plus 15. Now, we've also seen some under liability coming in this game, with the total starting out at 8.5. Now, the under has been juiced up to minus 115 on the money line. Now, keep this in mind. When the total is 8.5 or higher, the under is 54% so far this season. And both these teams, they've played to the under this season very well. Chicago is 22-20 to the under, and New York is even better than that. They're at 26-18. So in this particular game, even though the general public seems to be leaning on to the New York Yankees, the pros like Chicago White Sox in this game. Meanwhile, over at 7 o'clock, you got the Milwaukee Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds. The Brewers are 21-22 this season. The Reds are 19-23. Now, both these teams are in the National League Central. They kind of struggled lately because Milwaukee is just 1-5 over the last 6 games, while Cincinnati just got swept at home by San Francisco. Now, tonight's series opener, the Brewers start their righty, Adrian Hauser. He's 3-4 with a 3.63 ERA. Now, the Reds, they come back with their righty, Jeff Hoffman. He's 2-3 with a 4.67 ERA. Now, the line opened with Milwaukee, a short minus 110 road favorite. Cincinnati is a plus 100 on the money line home dog. The public is kind of split once again, and right down the middle once again as the tickets start coming in. Yet we've seen the Brew Crew go up from being a minus 110 to a minus 117 on the money line. Now, keep this in mind. If this were in a vacuum, a line shouldn't move at all if the bets are even. So if everything is sort of in a perfect situation, the bets being even, the line shouldn't be moving. So based on this move, it looks as though the pros are backing Milwaukee. The Brewers have value. They're a rested favorite. They had at least one day off against the team on the second leg of the back-to-back series this season. Now, teams that are on a second leg of a back-to-back season are 59% so far this year. We could also be looking at maybe a higher scoring game here as well. The total in this game is 9. Some of the books are juicing the over up to minus 115 on the money line. The Reds are the best over team in baseball, 27-13. Milwaukee is 19-16 against the righties. Cincinnati is 16-21. So that's the story in this game. The pros are on the Milwaukee Brewers in a game that should be pretty tightly played, should be very tightly bet upon. And like we said, if we're in a vacuum, there's no reason why a team's numbers should change. You're getting just about as many bets coming in as far as tickets are concerned, not as much money is being bet, but the amount of action that's coming in on a team. So in this game, once again, the pros are on the Brewers. Now, we're going to take a second break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Houston against the Texas Rangers. That's an 8 o'clock Eastern game as well. So just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. And, of course, we will be back because we do have these 2 breaks coming up for the rest of the show. Each one is of a 1-minute duration. Just kind of gives us a chance to get a quick sip of water or something and get our thoughts together and come back again. So when we come back, we'll look at that final game, round up the first 2 we talked about, and let you know how this little system, method, whatever you want to call it, has been doing so far this season. So let's take that break, and we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and of course, most of your major podcast platforms, if that's the way you're listening as well. We're on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcast as well. Yeah, we're everywhere. So if you want to get a hold of us, it's very simple. Just simply send us an email and send it to the sportswageringzone at gmail.com. If you have any comments or thoughts or whatever, be happy to hear from you at any time. So we're talking about baseball and the three games that are on tap for today. We talked about the Chicago White Sox against the New York Yankees. In that particular game, the pros are on the White Sox. Milwaukee Brewers against the Cincinnati Reds. In that particular game, the pros and the analytics also are on the Milwaukee Brewers. Finally, the third game on the schedule for us today, around 8 o'clock Eastern Time. The Houston Astros, 26-18 against the Texas Rangers, 19-27. Now, these are American League Western teams, and if you look at their records, you'll see they're kind of trending in opposite directions. The Astros, they just took 2 out of 3 at Oakland and are now 8-2 over their last 10 games. Now, on the other side, the Rangers, they just got swept by the Yankees at home to go 1-9 over their last 10 games. Now, in tonight's opener, the Astros come in with Tyler Ivey. He's a top prospect, and he's set to make his Major League Baseball debut. The Rangers come back with their veteran righty, Kyle Gibson, who's undefeated this season. He's 3-0 with a 2.32 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, it opened with Houston, listed as a short -115 money line road favorite, and Texas a +105 money line home dog. Now, the pro money isn't outthinking this one here. Very easy to do that. The pros are backing the better, the hotter team, and they've steamed Houston from -115 all the way up to -125 on the money line. And once again, we use the term steaming. Steam means when you get a surge of money comes in at one shot real quickly and actually moves it 10 cents in this situation. Houston is a +66 in run differential. Texas is -24. The Astros are 21-15 as a favorite this season. The Rangers are 17-24 as a dog. Now, Houston is 4-0 against Texas so far this season, okay, and 70% against divisional opponents. So keep an eye on the over in this one as well. The total is 8.5. They've already juiced up the over to -120. And some of the shops, as we looked at it before we came on the air, have brought that total up from 8.5 up to 9. Now, Houston is 27-16 to the over so far this season. The over is 3-1 between these two teams when they played each other the 4 times so far this year. So in this game between the Astros and the Rangers, the pros are on the Houston Astros. And just once again, to repeat the 2 games we talked about earlier, just in case you tuned a little late, we kind of bring you up to date. The first game we talked about around 7 o'clock, the White Sox and the New York Yankees. The pros are on the Chicago White Sox as well as the analytics as well. Meanwhile, also around 7 o'clock, you have the Brewers against the Reds. In this particular game, the pros are on the Brewers and as well as is the analytics. And finally, Houston against Texas. We like Houston in this game as well. So let's take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the numbers for the little system that we've devised and used up, and we'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this important message that's coming your way. And of course, we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Had a little problem, a little dryness in my throat there, so I went to a break earlier than we normally would have done it. But, sometimes you have to do things like that. That's the way things go sometimes. So we're talking about baseball. We talked about the 3 games on tap for today, but also I wanted to take a couple of minutes and go over the situation as far as following the pros. That's what we've been doing. What we do is we have line movement, we check the line movement, and by checking that line movement, you can determine in which direction the pros are going as far as their betting is concerned. Now, a little system, method, whatever you want to call it, we've been doing it since the beginning of the season. Yesterday, we had 3 plays. We had the Astros against the A's, with the Astros being the team, and that was a winner. We had Miami against Philadelphia. That was a winner with Miami. And we had one loser yesterday because we had Atlanta over Pittsburgh. That was a big upset win for the Pirates, so we were a loser on that particular game. The day before, we were 2-1. The day before that, we were 1-2. So it kind of gives you an idea. It just kind of fluctuates up and down with the wins coming up more often than the losses. In fact, so far from day 1 this season, we had 136 plays, 76 wins, 59 losses, for a total of 55.8%. 55.8% is the percentage of winners in this particular method, system, whatever you want to call it. All we're doing is looking at line movement, once we follow it, we understand which direction the pros are going, and of course, those are the games that we tell you about. That's not the only way that you can bet. That's just one way that we kind of bring to your attention, which is, once again, like we say, the purpose of the show is to try to make a better handicapper out of you. Now, if you prefer, to do everything on your own, you have your own method of choosing which game you're going to play, which team you're going to play within that game. That's all good and well. There's nothing wrong with that. And we're going to try to do everything we can from this side to kind of give you information that might be of some value to you when you're using whatever system it is that you're using. That's up to you. We will try to help you in that direction. And of course, the third portion of the show that we kind of do here at the Zone is we are contrarians. Contrarians are people who bet against the general public. If the public says go one way, we go the other way. By going the other way, you're actually betting the way the house would be betting. And like they say, most of the time, the house does win. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure you can remember that. So like we always say, if you walk into a bar and there's a game on TV and everybody seems to be going in one direction, you want to definitely go in the other. So that's kind of the story, kind of what we do here on the show. There's always new listeners coming in. The other day, we broke our record as to the number of listeners we had. So we know there are new people coming in. States are starting to adopt legalized betting. And every time another state legalizes it and makes it available to their citizenry, we seem to get a real push up as far as listeners are concerned. So today, what we want to do is talk about line movement, because we get a lot of emails saying, you talk about line movement, and we just got finished doing it again. What in the heck are you talking about? Okay, give us an idea. Let us know. So, because we want to do it also, which is fine, which is great. Okay, because you may see some line movement that we're not familiar with. You may say, hey, I look at it this way. I like this team because of the way it's going. Now, the pros, they are the experts in the sports betting business, no doubt about it. They're professional bettors. They have a long track record. They're very successful, and they happen to win at what would be considered a high rate. Now, they have, years and years, decades of experience. They will bet large amounts of money. That's how they make their living. In other words, if you're making $100 bets, right, Yeah, you may be doing very, very well, but of course, you're not going to be a millionaire making $100 bets. So these guys are into the thousands when they make their bets because, number one, it's their way of living. That's how they pay their bills. Okay. Now, unlike the public as bettors, you place your wages. Some of the people just do it for fun. Some of you guys do it for a hobby. It's kind of some entertainment for you. You'd rather do that instead of going to a movie or a play or whatever. And the pros have no other day job. That this is what they do for a living. Sports betting is their full-time job and really their only source of income. So they have to be the best that they can be. The pros are fearless in their betting, but more importantly than that, they're very, very disciplined, very critical. You have to be disciplined in order to be successful in betting. They don't bet based on their gut instinct or their biases. Now, you may see I see it myself from betting on games myself. I like a certain team because I'm a fan, but I'm not going to bet on it because of my fanhood. I like the team, but if I think the other team's going to do better, I'm going with that other team. This is the philosophy that they espouse. Now, they're completely data driven, and they're also driven and looking for value. Pros bet numbers. They don't bet the teams. They only place a bet if they can identify an edge or an advantage over the sports books. That's what they're looking for. To be considered a pro, you have to consistently win somewhere between 55 to 60% of your bets. This means that the pros, they win more often than they lose, which is why you never want to go against them if you're betting. It's true. Pros have the respect of the sports books. Very important. When they get down hard, lines move. We've seen it. They make the lines move. Another characteristic of the pros is that a lot of them set their own lines. They create their own power ratings, and then they compare each team to each other to figure out what the line should be. When they compare their numbers to what the sports books are offering, okay, and if they notice a big change, a big difference, they get down hard. Especially, for example, let me put it this way. If the pros have the Ravens minus 10 against the Bengals based on their power ratings, and the books open the Ravens at minus 8.5 point favorites, the pros immediately will bet the game. They'll bet Baltimore because the line is shorter than what they predicted. So it's important to remember that nobody becomes a pro overnight. It takes time, takes a lot of effort. Boy, vast experience. You need a lot of it. The goal is to get 1% sharper each day. If you can do that, 0.01%, if you can just improve that little bit every day, you're going to be getting better and better and doing very, very well. If you can't set your own lines, then you're not considered a pro. The next best thing is to learn how to read and interpret the line movement for each game. By learning how to read the market, this is the way you can identify and see where the pros are going. The first way to spot the pro action is through a steam move, like we talked about in the game today. Okay. A steam move is when you have a sudden overload, a ton of money, smart money coming down quickly all across the market. Okay, not only in Vegas, but all over Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Colorado, wherever it's legal. It causes a sudden uniform line movement. In other words, everywhere, not just in one place, everywhere it moves. The entire market has to adjust in a quick time, and not just a few books. They all have to do it. You might hear this referred to as the Chiefs getting steamed from being a 6 to a 7 point favorite. The key with steam is that you need to make sure that you act as fast as you can so you identify this move and you can still bet the line at that triggering pro number. Okay, get there too late, it's already happened. So once you see the market move, you need to pick off a book still hanging there at that other number. No, once the line is at a certain number, that means you missed the triggering number and the value is now gone. Taking a little story about the Chiefs, okay? The Chiefs went from a 6 to a 7-point favorite. Now, the books, because of the steam, have to get ready to make a move. They make the move from 6 to 7. If that happens, you've missed the number. In other words, even though 6 looks very good to the pro, the 7 may not. So, you can take a chance to go along one more. You might say, hey, it's only one more point. Well, that one more point may be a big difference as far as the final total comes. The value is gone. And if you miss it, too late. That would be referred to as chasing the steam. Not really a good thing to do. The second way to find where the smart money is going is what we call a reverse line movement. This is when the betting line moves away from the popular side toward the unpopular side, from the favorites to the dogs. So think of it as a line move that makes no sense. Remember, if it looks fishy, there's a reason for looking that way. Let me give you an example. Let's say 75% of the bets are taking the Patriots as 7-point favorites against the Jets. But despite this lopsided betting, you see the line drop down on the Patriots to 6.5. That would be considered a reverse line movement on the Jets, and the pros are hitting the Jets at +7 as a 7-point dog, causing the line to fall in their favor despite being the unpopular pick, the underdog. Once again, to really capitalize on reverse line movement, you need to jump on a sports book that's still hanging at +7 before it drops down to 6.5, because that's what's going to happen because of the money coming in. Okay. The third way to spot money coming in from pros is what we call a line freeze. And we have that in one of the games today as well. This is when one side is getting heavy betting, but the line doesn't budge. Typically, the odds makers, the sports books, they're going to adjust the line further toward the popular side to limit their risk in the situation. And they want others betting on the unpopular side by handing out a better number, making it look more attractive. However, if the line refuses to budge, despite all this money coming in, that indicates there's liability and there's a definite reluctance by the house to hand out any more better numbers to the contrarian bettors. For example, let's say the Bucks opened at 10-point favorites. They're getting 75% of the bets, but the line remains frozen at 10. It hasn't ticked up to 10.5 or even 11, despite that overwhelming support that's coming in. So essentially, the books are telling you that they're worried about giving the dog bettors an extra better number because that's where the pros are going. Okay. And finally, always pay attention to the late line moves. They happen on game day like today, or in the final hours, or just minutes before the game starts. These moves are meaningful because they take place late, when the limits are really at their highest. We've talked about limits, and we're going to talk about it in the near future. They're almost always coming from the pros that are putting down big amounts of money at the very last second. So if you're following and interpreting line movement, you can learn how to identify which side is getting the pro money. The key is you got to have access to live odds so you can monitor the market, see the line moves in real time, and you need multiple outs so you can shop for the best line once you find out where the smart money is going. Remember, pros aren't just picking the right side. They're also getting the best number. So if a pro hits the 49ers or -6.5, it doesn't just mean he or she likes the 49ers. It means they like the 49ers at that particular number. If you only have access to a 7-point number, let's just say, you're on the pro side, but you're getting a worse number than what they're getting. Always try to get more than one sports book to deal with. Most important in those situations. So that's kind of little ideas to sports betting as far as following the line movement, which is basically what we do on the show, as part of what we do on the show, to try to find out in which direction the pros are going, so we can give you that information so that you can deal with it as you see fit. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it, or you want to do it. It's totally up to you. But if you're taking a look at a method or a system that is bringing in over 55% win percentage, you're in that 55 to 60% area where most of the pros are. And of course, we're following the pros. So it's just not unusual for this to be at the same number. So that's the story as far as line movement is concerned, what to look for. If you have any questions, by all means, send us an email. Send it to thesportswageringzone@gmail.com. And also, if you're interested in our newsletter that we're working on, still trying to put it together, you can send us an email as well. Send it to thesportswageringzone@gmail.com. Let us know if you're interested in the newsletter. It doesn't have to be a big full letter about it. Just say, yes, I'm interested. We'll get back to you as we progress with it as well. So that's the story as far as today's concerned. Once again, the three games that we looked at today as far as which way the pros are going, we're seeing that in the game between the Astros and the A's, no, that was yesterday. Let's take a look at today's games. We have the White Sox against the Yankees. The pros are on the White Sox. Milwaukee against the Reds. The pros are on Milwaukee, the Brewers. And, of course, with the Astros and the Rangers, the pros are on the Astros in that game as well. So that's the story for today. It's Friday. We're here every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern Time. Tomorrow is Saturday. Saturday and Sunday, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So have a very pleasant Friday. Hope we hear you. You can listen to the show tomorrow morning. If not, have a very, very pleasant weekend. Also have a very pleasant Friday as well. And if you're betting, I hope you do very, very well. Basically, that's our thinking here. We want you to be a better handicapper. By becoming a better handicapper, you'll be a more profitable handicapper as well. So thanks again for listening. We'll be back again, like I said, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. So have a great Friday, but more importantly than that, have a profitable Friday as well. We'll be back again tomorrow, 11 a.m. on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Thanks again for listening. Goodbye, everybody.